on Pier 1 in Terminal 1. We walked it last week together, and we have a long list in terms of the things you called out. Teas and coffees in the summer peak at the far end of that terminal. So you've done, you've gone right after Starbucks, and you've done the walkways, and you're down, we say, at gate 116 at the end of Pier 1 in Terminal 1. That's an area, and specifically getting a tea or a coffee in the peak of the summer months. There might be permanent cafes that we'll always look at in terms of where they go in this permanent space, but we are looking at how do you provide those facilities on what I've called the big cup final days, when you have the big exodus out of Ireland, which are fairly predictable days. So teas and coffees at that, that's a good idea. We have the same idea, and we're looking at that. Check-in in T1. We, and this means Ryanair, would not want you to have to do check-in. I think they're looking at the bag drop in all their airports, including Dublin Airport and including T1, obviously. But that's something that we would like to be able to go straight to security or straight through fast track without having to do check-in. But making that whole check-in process, if it's a family with big bags that have to be check-in, just making that smoother, and that taking away, we'll say, the big density of people that's there. I know they're looking at a number of initiatives. That's good. We'll look at that as well. And on Starbucks that you mentioned, yeah, it does get tight there. If it's a Good Friday morning and you have lots of families, you have lots of parents with buggies, it does narrow there. That's one of the things that we've identified. How do we just free that up as much as we can? Not making it a big year-long project. We actually will think, Good Friday morning, what can we do to declutter and just make it really, really easier when you've got a big throng of people going through. This is the daily grind, and on those big cup final days, we're looking at those three things that you mentioned. I'm now going to ask Vincent to cover the regulatory regime and what we think the airport will look like, needs to look like at the end of the decade.